Hi, Dr. Mark here at Natural Health. We're going to have a fun evening this evening. We're going to talk about the truth of cholesterol and high blood pressure, some of the facts that are going on there, and a lot of the myths that we hear all the time in the mainstream media. Um, just a little quick background. Been in chiropractic and nutrition for 37 years already. Been doing nutrition ever since we started. So we've had a lot of experience with that and using the Whole Food Nutrition Center process as our main company, but other companies that are a whole food nutrition company. Uh, we have went through many changes over the years, improving the office over time. Personally, again, we raised four sons, been in football, did a lot of things with that. Um, so we were experienced also with sports injuries, not only on the chiropractic side we work on, but on the nutrition side and the healing side. So a lot of good things going on there. The good news too about being a chiropractor is that we're not bound by a lot of the constraints of medical people, so that we can discuss openly different ideas and look at things differently than others. So that's why we really enjoy being in the chiropractic profession, more open-minded, and what works. Our goal in the office is we don't care what it is, as long as it's working for the body, and we have ways of determining what that is to help people get well, be at optimum, not just symptom-free, working on actual truth and health here. So we'll dive into our topic. Also to remember as we go through this, that if you want to ask a question, you can put that in the comments and on Facebook there, and we'll answer those as they come up. Um, we have some guests in our studio audience today. They may ask questions too, so we will answer those as time goes on. We're pretty informal here. So anybody's also welcome to come to our patient education workshops, always at 6 o'clock, around 6 o'clock on Monday evenings. Every Monday evening. It's a different topic all the time. So the first one, we're going to go over some of the cholesterol myths here. My assistant, my son Eddie, is going to put this handout in the comments so you can look at that, maybe somehow print it off if you like. It's especially important because at the bottom of this handout, we talk about the book, The Cholesterol Myths, by Dr. Ravenscoss. He's a researcher that has done looked at a lot of information on cholesterol, the truth again behind it. I could spend probably an hour going into the history of cholesterol and who did all this, what's going on. The biggest problem with it was really the problem with heart issues and heart attacks started back with President Eisenhower, and at that time they were looking for where was all this problems coming from, and Dr. Keyes developed this theory that it was cholesterol was the problem. Well, everybody jumped on that, and there's a little truth to it, but not much. And then the statins were developed. The drug companies all got jumped in. There's a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar business now on it. So nobody really wants to hear anything else at this time, which is fine if you're an investor on Wall Street, want to keep your profits up. But if you're the Joe Blow who's having a heart attack and dying from too many drugs and living in a nursing home and all this kind of stuff, you need to know the truth. So we're going to go over some of these things. So on the cholesterol myths there, you can read through that. I've got a little different form that I'm going to look at here, these that are listed, but all this information is here or in Dr. Ravenscoff's book. You can look through that. But the first one of the big top cholesterol myths is everybody believes that cholesterol is bad, just in general. Well, that's really not true at all. The body needs a lot of cholesterol. All your cells are, the cellular walls are cholesterol. Your brain is 60% cholesterol by weight. You need cholesterol. So it's really important that the body makes the right kind of cholesterol. And we know about the HDLs and LDLs. Well, they both have a purpose. It's just that the LDLs are the one that are found in the cell walls or the arterial walls when surgeons do a cleaning. So they blame the cholesterol. Well, it's not the cholesterol that's the problem. It's really got to do more with what we're eating that's causing the cholesterol to do those things. The other part of that myth then is high cholesterol is caused by what you eat. Well, that's not true. Only 5% of the cholesterol in your body comes from what you eat. So it's not the cholesterol in the diet that's the problem. It really has to do with the sugars and especially the refined sugars and carbohydrates that drive this whole process of cholesterol issue and why the cholesterol becomes a problem. The next myth is everyone's cholesterol level should be the same. And again, just like all the other parameters in the body, we're all different. We all have different things going on. We all have different stresses. We eat different things. So our cholesterol levels will change due to our lifestyles and diets. And again, it's not the diet of eating cholesterol that's the problem. It's the diet of the other junk that we eat that causes the cholesterol to go up. There's other thing, again, the HDL, cholesterol ratios, all these different ratios that you see have to do with monitoring cholesterol. And cholesterol is something to be aware of, but it's not the cause. It's kind of, again, if you take your cholesterol level and it's high, it's a warning light going off that something's going on here. That, what's going on? Why is the body making so much cholesterol? So to realize that when you take a statin drug to lower your cholesterol, what does the statin drug do? Well, the statin drug stops the liver from making cholesterol. The problem is nobody ever asked, why is the liver making all this cholesterol? Why is it so high? And so that's really easily answered. It's basically because we're eating too much sugar. The body has to transfer all this sugar into what the liver puts into triglycerides and transfers that into the fat cells. And then that's the HDL, then the LDLs come back to the liver. The problem comes into when the LDLs have a lot of problems with other things in the bloodstream, chemicals and toxins, and that the blood vessels are already hurt by the sugar and high insulin levels. So there's a lot more going on here than just lowering cholesterol. I'll get through our myths here, and then we'll have some more explanation. There's one here, a myth: children cannot have high cholesterol. Children have all kinds of problems, and their cholesterols are going up, and of course, they're giving medication to children too, and younger adults that are having cholesterol issues because, again, we're not eating correctly. There's a myth: your margarine is better than butter for cholesterol, and again, it's interesting in that that butter is actually a food, margarine is plastic. So does it make sense? I mean, that kind of argument. There's a lot of history into that too, the money making behind why that was all started, why there is cholesterol in butter, but it's not the kind that causes trouble. The body has to break that all down and rebuild it. So there's a statement here: cholesterol drugs show no benefit for heart health. So I was reading an article the other day that statistically, people who are on statin drugs live a measly 4 or 5 days more than those who don't take statin drugs. Now, the problem with that is the side effects in the statin drugs. Those people that are on statin drugs had a lot of problems later on in life due to the side effects of the statin drugs. Those who didn't take the statin drugs, they might have died of a heart attack, but they lived well. So you have to measure that. Now, what we do in our office, of course, is figure out what's going on there so you don't have the problem at all. But it's important to realize that taking medication like statins can even make problems worse than a lot of side effects. So if you are on any medications out there, you can go to www.drugs.com, and all that information is on there. All the side effects are on that website. Really good website. It has the side effects for the patient to look at and the side effects from the physician's point of view. So important to understand. The other problem with it is if you go to your doctor and he's just doing his best job, but he just only has the tools to work with. He does a blood test, your cholesterol is high, so he gives you a statin drug. What do you think? Oh, I'm good now. My cholesterol is down. I can just do whatever I want. Well, of course, that's not right, not good, and it's not going to be healthy long term. So it's important that you figure out what's going on in your body that's making this cholesterol going up, because lot of cholesterol is raised by the body to fight inflammation. Again, it's inflammation in the blood vessels that comes from high glucose and high insulin levels that are chronic. We were never meant to eat sugar, white sugar. It just wasn't meant to be there. We're not supposed to eat that stuff. You can have sugar in a food source, but not refined like we eat so much of it in society today. And I think that's through most of the myths there. So again, if you have any questions about cholesterol, let me know in your comment section there. And any questions from our studio audience on cholesterol? It's more than you probably wanted to know at this time. So it gives you just some quick information on cholesterol. But again, it's not the culprit that everybody points it out to be. And it's important that you not only deal with the numbers of cholesterol, but also triglycerides, C-reactive protein, high insulin, high glucose. All these things are all tied together. And that brings us into the second part of tonight's topic, and that's on blood pressure. And what is the truth of high blood pressure? So again, what are the causes of high blood pressure? So again, if you go, and again, another multi-billion-dollar business on blood pressure medication, but if your blood pressure is quote-unquote high, well, they'll give you a medication to force it down. But why is it high? Nobody ever asked that question again. Never look at the cause. And again, the folks out there are going, I'm just great now. My blood pressure number is low. I'm taking this medication. I can do whatever I want. Well, one of the big long-term side effects of blood pressure medication is congestive heart failure. So then as you get older, you're on blood pressure medication, your heart gets more and more enlarged. It gets lazier and lazier. The valves don't work. You start to have AFib, all this kind of stuff. That's all side effects of long-term use of blood pressure medication. So what is normal blood pressure? So, I mean, the average is 120/80. The problem with medical treatment is that everybody is forced to be at less than 120/80. So if if the average number is 120/80, it would mean that somebody out there has a blood pressure of 150/90, and somebody has a blood pressure of 100/60. So again, we're going to send out this handout too. I forgot to mention that. My assistant Eddie's going to send out this handout too. You can look through that and get some more explanation that we talk about these numbers and what that means. Also, so important when you have blood pressure readings done that you're resting. The blood pressure numbers are meant to be in a resting state, which means you should be relaxed, sitting for at least 10 minutes without coffee or any stimulant that morning when you take your blood pressure. If you run into the doctor's office and you had 2 cups of coffee to take blood pressure, well, of course it's going to be high. It's supposed to be high. That's the whole point of coffee. Running around the body is going to make you have a higher blood pressure to keep your blood supply to the brain. So it's important to realize all these things when you're having blood pressure taken. Our goal, of course, is to figure out what's going on in there. And some of the reasons for blood pressure, again, if we look at, say, for instance, a medication that's angiotensin II inhibitor, which means that they're trying to open and relax the blood vessels. Why are the blood vessels so irritated? Back to the sugar and insulin thing. If that's all, insulin levels are high, sugar's high, the blood vessels are damaged by all this, they're going to stay constricted. The muscles in those blood vessels are going to be irritated. The medication just forces the muscles to relax. But again, that makes the heart muscle flaccid, enlarged heart, that kind of stuff. So there's side effects to all this stuff. And again, you haven't dealt with the underlying problem at all. Other things are, of course, diet, but kidney function. If kidney function is impaired, I know one thing we find in here a lot, and this, again, flies in the face of a lot of mainstream media myths or truths, whatever, but eating the correct amount of real sea salt or mineral salt is important for kidney function. But most people that are on blood pressure medications are also on a low or no salt diet, which keeps the kidneys from working. So then you're on a water pill, which forces the kidneys to work, and that makes you low potassium, which lends you towards AFib, and the music just keeps playing. So it's important that you figure out the underlying causes, and even just being hydrated. People that blood is too thick, you have to be on a blood thinner. Well, they're not getting enough water and salt, in our opinion. So the salt helps to retain the fluid so the body can move around, lymphatic drainage, lots of things that go on there. So real important to know what's going on underlying all these symptoms, all these red lights on the dashboard of the car. So by all means, if you have high blood pressure, you're having heart, chest pain, go to the MD, get on medication, get that emergency under control. But long term, figure out what's going on there so you can get back off the medication, the body can heal itself. So that's what we do in our office, is try to figure out what's going on in there. Again, any questions, put it on the comment sections. Any questions from the studio audience on blood pressure?
So congestive heart failure can be caused by results of the blood pressure medication?
Long-term use of blood pressure medication, right. Forcing the heart to stay calm, forcing the muscles to relax, forcing everything to relax. So then the heart just gets bigger. It's trying to work, but it can't. It just gets flaccid. And when that heart gets, you've heard of a enlarged heart. I mean, a lot of people have that. When that happens and the valves don't work, you start having myocardial, valve issues, all kind of weird things go on with that. So then you want to do valve replacements, and if the immune system's weakened, there's just all kinds of problems go on. And then again, just taking medication to force the number down to a certain amount, that helps certain things, but it's not the whole picture. And you need to address the whole picture, because again, most people that are on medications usually end up getting really tired. They're really tired a lot of the times, or fatigued all the time, brain fog, on and on. Here we go. So it's just a deal that you haven't looked at the underlying problem yet. You just handled that number, which is great for strokes. We don't want people to have strokes. That's good, but you still haven't handled why that's there in the first place. And so there's a lot of damage going on behind the scenes, but the number's good. Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah. So, and again, I'm not poo-pooing the blood pressure medication particularly. It's just that it's not meant to be. It's not a nutrition. It's not a vitamin. It's a medication, and it's forcing things to work, which is important for emergency, but it's not something that's good for long-term use like that. So good. Anything else? Or we'll move on. Okay. Good. Okay. Good. And if you think of any questions, just let me know later on. I'm also going to put out there this video links page that you can get a hold of these videos on YouTube. Now, I'll introduce you to Ivor Cummings. I really like him because he's an engineer. And coming from an engineering background, he's figured out a lot of these things on other people's research, but has put the information together, done a very good job. Also, the first video here is by William Davis, MD, who was a cardiologist. And he goes into why the mainstream medical treatment is not good, is wrong. I mean, again, emergency-wise, fine. We have the best emergency and trauma system in the world, hands down. But long-term, our stats for degenerative or chronic disease is just going up, up, up. Again, we're not handling the underlying cause of the problem. So these videos have a lot of explanation as to why that is, what's all behind a lot of the physiology, the biochemistry. If you're really interested, you can get on those and take a look. They're really interesting. They're not boring at all. And they're both, Dr. Williams and Ivor Cummings are both easy to listen to. They're not a PhD type of a thing. They're actually interesting. So you can look through those. Good. So now we'll go ahead and work into our regular patient education workshop. And again, if you have any questions about any of that, let me know. We're going to work into our patient education workshop material. And if you come to one of these, we'll have a handout set for you too. We're going to go over some of these things, and hopefully it'll all make sense. The first one we're going to look at is our myths and truths about nutrition. So again, just like cholesterol, some of these other things out there, there's a lot of information out there that's not always the truth. It can be more marketing, that kind of thing, but it's not always the truth. So a couple things like this we're going to go over. And the first one here, to avoid heart disease, we should use margarine instead of butter. Again, we kind of talked about that before. And the actual truth of it is margarine eaters have twice the rate of heart disease as butter eaters. And the deal is, again, butter is a food that the body is meant to have. Margarine is a couple of chemical steps away from plastic. And really, not supposed to put that stuff in your body. So it made sense when they started bringing it up because they were looking at this butter, it had cholesterol in it. Again, blaming butter, but butter is a food. It's a good way of getting good nutrition, good oils there. Let's see, the very last one here I'll go over. I hear this all the time. The myth: beef causes colon cancer. So the truth is, Argentina with higher beef consumption has lower rates of colon cancer than U.S. Mormons, who have a lower rate of colon cancer than the vegetarian Seventh-day Adventists. So again, when we look at these different food sources, we have to look at the whole picture. And man has eaten meat forever and ever. It's not that the meat's the problem; it's the person's digestive system, and a lot of times the toxins and chemicals and things they're involved with, and their probiotic intestinal flora system is all ruined, and their body you just can't process the meat, so it sits in there. So it's not really the meat that's the problem; it's the digestive system that's the problem. It's the person, and so so meat does not cause colon cancer by itself. There has to be lots of other factors involved there, of course, like many things. So our health, what exactly is the problem? So I'd like to read through this first couple paragraphs here. We have drifted into this horrible position of national malnutrition quite inadvertently. It is the result of scientific research with the objective of finding the best ways to create foods that are non-perishable, that can be made by mass production methods in central factories, and distributed so cheaply that they can sweep all local competition from the market. Then after develops a suspicion that these quote-unquote foods are inadequate to support life, modern advertising steps in to propagandize the people, and believe that there's nothing wrong with them, that they are the products of scientific research intended to produce a food that is the last for nutritive value, and the confused public is totally unable to arrive at any conclusion of fact, and continues to blindly buy the rubbish that is killing them off years ahead of their time. This is written by Dr. Royal Lee, and Dr. Royal Lee is the inventor of standard process nutrition. So he's been around, and actually it says 7 years, but more like 90 years ago now. And this was before a lot of the big chains out there, like McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin Robbins and all these processed foods and fast food places. So you think it was bad then, but it's really bad now. And back then, what they were looking at, Dr. Lee became a dentist. He was an engineer, and again had figured this out looking at an engineering mind, but had became a dentist just to help his patients and people deal with the cavities, all these cavities these kids were having. And it was really because of the 20 or 30 years of use of white flour, white sugar, when it really kind of came out. So a really interesting story there, but that's what's going on. So our next handout, let's go through a couple of our first high-tech presentation board here. So hopefully you can see that on our studio audience here. So we have a triangle, kind of a microcosm of the body. The sides of the triangle are nutritional deficiency, organ dysfunction, and this is disease, basically degenerative type disease. So which is basically everything out there almost. Like any type of disease, like a cold, flu, that is a degenerative disease of the immune system. You can look at it that way. People look at the bug, but they need to look at the immune system side. Cardiovascular disease is a degenerative disease of the cardiovascular system. Diabetes, degenerative disease of the sugar handling system. Cancer, degenerative disease of the immune system and lymphatic system. So most all the different diseases out there are a degeneration of the body. So how this works, of course, the more nutritional deficiency we have, the more organ dysfunction we have, the triangle just gets bigger. The more disease you have, it just gets bigger and bigger. It becomes a big negative spiral. We want to break that spiral. So one of our next handouts, and I'll have our studio audience do this. You can see this one. You should have a pencil or pen, as you think, is to go ahead and take the sugar quiz. Just, it should be in there. Okay, great. And hopefully the pen and pencil works. So that's good. While you take that, I'll kind of talk a little bit about sugar in general. The big thing is the human body can use sugar as a fuel, The problem is we've never meant to have it in the form that comes in a concentrated white sugar form, taken out of the food context. So then with all the energy from the glucose and fructose to sucrose there, sucrose is a combination of glucose and fructose. So without any minerals and vitamins with it, it burns like paper. The body just uses it right up. It's absorbed very quickly. It makes the blood sugar spike. Then when that happens, to keep the body from going to a diabetic coma, the body floods it with insulin, trying to get the sugar out of the bloodstream. And those high values of insulin and sugar cause all the degeneration in the cardiovascular system. Back to talking about the cholesterol and the cardiovascular high blood pressure. So again, the cholesterol is a protective agent somewhat for the blood vessels so they don't actually get holes in them. So it's really interesting how this sugar thing works in there. Did you get all done?
Oh, for the quiz?
With the quiz?
Yeah, I felt it.
That's good. You should know.
Oh, well, I changed one answer now. Now that I've been
So
here, I don't need
so
to.
we'll work on that. So the results in our little quiz we had our studio audience do, if you answered false to more than 4 of the statements, chances are you're probably sugar sensitive. You're probably allergic to sugar and also addicted to it. The same way an alcoholic is addicted to alcohol, or even how cocaine works. So it produces the same endorphin, dopamine rush, and that is just keeps going. It causes this the addiction to that. So if you crave sugar, have withdrawal symptoms when you don't get it, and probably feel better for a short time after you've eaten it. And eating sugar to feel better, you're actually making the condition worse. If you answered false to 4 statements or fewer, but doesn't mean you don't have a problem with sugar, it just means you may not be addicted to it, but perhaps you don't quite realize just how much sugar you're eating. So it's important to kind of look through that, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but there's 61 different names for sugar. If you look at a lot of the packaged foods, you'll find 2, 3, 4, 5 different names for sugar in there. And again, it's very addictive. If you're selling a food, you want people to be addicted to your food, you put sugar in there, and people like it, and they'll keep eating it unless they know better. So there's 146 reasons why sugar is ruining your health. This is written by Dr. Nancy Appleton, PhD. She has a book with that name, and so you can get a hold of that book. It basically is just a rundown of all the degenerative diseases that mankind has to deal with, and again, for that very, very reason. So if I take off this disease heading and put sugar up here, then it works the same way. We have more nutritional deficiency by eating sugar. Again, the body likes sugar, it likes the energy, but there's no nutrition in it, no fiber in it. So you're just getting all this sugar and you're getting nutritional deficiency. You're forcing the body to burn the sugar, to run, to move, to do things, but no nutrition. So nutritional deficiency, more organ dysfunction. The body craves the sugar, it wants the energy, big negative spiral. And we want to break that spiral, again, on the nutritional deficiency by entering that side. So we'll take this off and go to our next high-tech presentation board here. So we'll go into a couple more handouts. Sugar's many disguises. This gives us a list of all the different sugars, or all different names for sugars, 61 different names and counting. So for instance, we have agave nectar. That sounds like, something extra special and extra nutritious, but it's just refined sugar. Brown sugar is refined. Honey. Most honeys are processed or not refined. One of the worst ones is high fructose corn syrup. It's a real cheap sugar, so it's kind of replaced most of the sucrose in a lot of foods. And again, fructose is one of the hardest sugars for the liver to deal with, causes all kinds of problems, and drives the LDL cholesterol cycle there, cholesterol and LDLs especially. So you get a lot of different things to look at there. The 3 tastes, the body has a taste for sugar, salt, and fats. And that's because over the course of millennia, during different famines, those are the 3 things the body has to have just to survive. So again, the body can run on sugar. It needs salt, always has, always will, and fats. Essential fatty acids usually come with essential amino acids, the proteins there. You have to get in the diet to survive. So the manufacturers use that against us. So if you're trying to buy a low-fat food, it tastes bad, to the body, so they put a lot of sugar and salt in there. Are you looking for a low sugar? They have to get it tastes bad, so we have to have more fat and salt. So just kind of how foods are. There's also a video, if you go to YouTube, it's called Is Sugar Toxic? It's a YouTube video, 60 Minutes article actually, and it's got a lot of information about what we're talking from other medical sources, PhDs, colleges, different things, but the same thing we're talking about. This is not new information. It's been around forever. It's, again, it doesn't pay people a lot. So it's something that we have to learn ourselves to stay healthy and to stay optimum healthy. Also, the guy they're interviewing on this article, Dr. Robert Lustig, he has his own YouTube channel with a lot of good information in it that talks about the chemistry, biochemistry, physiology of how sugar works too. Another source that you can get a hold of and look through. So the deal is then, since I told you about all the problems that people have, all the degeneration, it wouldn't be fair for me to give you all this information without giving you a way to get out of it, a way that we can help heal the body and strengthen it. So what we do in our office is using a technique called nutrition response testing. And nutrition response testing, to define that, and I'll quote the words of the president of UNS, Dr. Freddie Ulan, who developed nutrition response testing. But nutrition response testing is a non-invasive system of analyzing the body in order to determine the underlying causes of ill health. When these underlying causes are corrected through safe, natural, nutritional means, the body can repair itself in order to attain and maintain optimum health. So it's just a real-time, easy way of figuring out what does that body need to be healthy. And again, not only just healthy, but at optimum. We're always working towards optimum health, not just getting by, not just symptom relief, but actually getting healthier. So what I'll do is kind of explain how this works. We use an arm strength test with nutrition response testing to determine what the body needs. Now, we've been around all around the block here with blood tests, urine analysis, hair analysis, salivary testing. And those tests are great for certain disease processes, but don't really give you a good idea what the body needs nutritionally to be well. So the arm strength test is a good way of doing that. So when I have my assistant, Dr. Chip, my son, the other chiropractor in our office, so I'm going to show you how this works with the arm strength. We're going to check the arm. Have you matched my pressure and hold? Good, nice strong arm. So you can relax the arm. So how this works, it works on the principle of hypothermia. So in hypothermia, if for instance you decide to go out and go ice skating, you fall in the lake, you get back out, you want to try to make it back to the house without freezing to death, the body will allow will sacrifice the fingers, the appendages, in order to keep the core alive. It wants to keep the brain, the heart, all the organs alive, so it will sacrifice the appendages to do that. So we use that principle when we're checking this with the arm strength test. So we're matching my pressure. Now, for instance, say the heart is having some problems and got high blood pressure or something. So I check the heart, I put an irritation on the heart. If the body feels that I'm irritating the heart, it will try to support that by pulling the energy out of the extremities. So the arm will go unlocked, it will go weak. And that tells me that the body has a problem with the heart muscle of some sort. So what we do is we use some nutrition, and we're testing actually the energy of these foods against the body's energy or with the body's energy. Same kind of energy is when you feel the sunlight coming through the window, that heat. It's that type of energy you don't see, but it's in all natural things. So we're going ahead and bring this arm out. Now, if I irritate the heart with the nutrition on the body, the arm goes strong, then I know that this nutrition will help that problem. That's how we figure it out. We figure out then that we can use this nutrition to strengthen the heart up, and the heart's one of the easiest organs to fix. It's just a muscle, so it's really easy to fix, so we can do that. So good job. Thank you very much. So the thing to realize too with the muscle testing, it's not voodoo, it's not magic. It just works on this principle of hypothermia. It's a real easy thing to do. We can do it in real time. It doesn't cost a lot. You know, we're not spending $300, $400, $500 every time for blood work. We're actually able to test any function of the body and get the body well. So again, one of our next handouts, what patients are saying. These are testimonials from other patients. Actually, some fun stories are actually really entertaining. But we just deal with all kind of problems. With any problem you can think of, we work with it. The nutrition response testing, a little more information on nutrition response testing. And then we'll have a couple of little handouts on some actual blood tests. This one was on splenomegaly. The patient had splenomegaly, which just means the spleen was enlarged from the inflammation. Put them on nutrition and diet. The splenomegaly went away, which the medics were confused. How did that happen? There's a blood test here that's got the redaction on it. Hope you can find that in the redacted areas. But the first part was on vitamin D. We took that from 29.7 to 33, again, without adding vitamin D3. This was just giving the body good food, getting people off the sugar. This bottom part was talking about the hemoglobin A1C, which was at 8.0, and we had it down to 6.6, headed to 5.7 or normal. But again, just getting people from eating the sugars, again, which is easier said than done sometimes, again, because of the addictive properties of sugar. But to understand that that's the underlying problem with this, getting all this refined sugars from whatever source. So when we do our testing, we're designing a clinical nutritional approach for that patient and just for that patient. So by design, it's very personalized. All these programs that we do for patients are just for their individual problems. It's clinical, it means that it works. That's all we care about. It works towards optimum health. We have ways of measuring that, and you can do it, again, with blood tests and different things too, but we have a way of doing it in our office that will show that patient, and the patient actually is part of the testing again with the arm strength. They can feel how it works, so they know that they're getting better and all their symptoms are improving. And we're using whole food nutrition. We're just using food here. It's not medication. There's no side effects other than you get better. The interesting thing with people that are on medication, we have to get them off. A lot of times their blood pressure starts to get too low, so we have to start getting them off the medication as we're getting to the underlying causes of the problems. We'll go to our next high-tech presentation board. And one of our handouts too is our public education workshop screening form. So for the patients that are here in our studio audience, and we have our little form that if they fill out, we will do a quick, free initial screening to see if they are a nutrition patient or not. Because if they are not a nutrition patient, there's not much we can do for them. But if they are a nutrition patient, there really isn't much out there that can help them other than nutrition. They need the nutritional approach. So coming here, they can do that out in the studio audience, or I'm sorry, in the Facebook audience out there in video land. If you come into our office and give us the word HEART, H-E-A-R-T, we will do the same thing for you. We will just have you come in, do our initial screening, show you what we can do, and if you want to do a program, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. But at least let you know what we can do for you, how we can help your body to be healthy and get to optimum. Again, not just the number of what they want, but optimum health, vitality, being able to chase your grandkids around, getting up every morning and feeling well, that kind of thing. We're working towards that feeling, not just pain-free. So there are some book lists we have around for some other reading if you'd like. There's a website list. Now, one of the best websites you can go to is WestonAPrice.org. That is a very good. He was another dentist back in the day with Dr. Lee in that era, and he had traveled around the world to primitive lands, finding out, well, why are their teeth good, and why are Americans' teeth so bad? So he's got a lot of good information on that website of organic farming, organic eating, WestonAPrice.org. Other ones in here again, the drugs.com one, Real Mill. There's just all kind of good things in here to look at. Videos, a lot of videos are available on YouTube that are free. The one that's especially good is Super Size Me. If you go to McDonald's a lot, that will kind of give you some explanations why that's not always so good. Smoking teeth, poison gas, about mercury in the teeth causing issues, the Pottinger's cat studies, nutritional explanation about genetics, good stuff there. Some of these are also on Netflix. I have one here called Sugar Coated. I'm pretty sure Super Size Me, even Food Matters, that's also on Netflix. Hungry for Change, another good one there. So just a lot of good information. The new childhood in America, again, most of us know that the children are getting more overweight. 1 in 3 is overweight. The asthma is going up. The ADHD is going up. Seizures, food allergies, of course, autism. We're going to have big problems with that. And unfortunately, in the medical field, again, they're doing their thing, but they're looking at the therapy for autism kids. But what about the cause? Let's look at the cause. There's a lot of information as to what is the cause there, but they're not, not looking at that. So since we are a chiropractic office, we also look at the spine and why that's so important. I'm going to show you that one a little closer view. But this is a spinal model, again, showing the levels of the spinal nerve, what organs they innervate. So by adjusting the spine, you can influence the organ, get normal nerve supply so the body can work correctly, and then the nutrition it takes to help that organ repair. So it's all connected there too, along with emotions and the energy of emotions and past problems, past history of emotions. That's what we work in our office, a 3-tier approach on emotions, on the physical, on the nutritional. Our diet recommendations, so we try to make it really simple for patients, try to keep it simple and sane. So our diet recommendations basically is having patients eat proteins in the morning, salads for lunch, and proteins and vegetables for evening. That's how we start off on our detox diets, working towards getting the bodies well, and we modify that then over time for that patient. Whatever they have to work with or need to work with there. Then I like to read too this last sentence of talking about that many of our eating habits have been trained into us for generations. For example, grandma was a good baker, mom was a great baker. Every Christmas we eat 10 pounds of fudge, somehow catch the flu in January, and have a history of diabetes and heart disease in our family. So the idea there is, it's not always, a lot of times you hear a lot about genetics and, grandpa had that, well, you're going to get it and all that kind of stuff. No, the genetics are the blueprint. It's like the analogy of using a blueprint to build up 2 houses. And if you have good materials, good boards, good nails, good shingles, using the same blueprint, you'll have a great house. It'll last forever, the roof won't leak, all those things. But if you use the same blueprint with cracked boards, not holes in them, the rusty nails, the shingles got holes, using the same blueprint, you're going to have a house that doesn't last very long, blow down, leaky roof, all that kind of thing. So that's really the science of epigenetics. For what turns the genes on and off? Well, it's diet and lifestyle. That's something you can do something about. If you think it's just genetics, you go, well, nothing I can do about it, so I'll just take my medications and go on. But that's, you're turning your decision-making, medical decision-making over to somebody else. You need to take control of yourself, and you can. There's a lot of things you can do yourself to help yourself to be healthy and have a vital life. I think that's the end of our handouts. To go over our last high-tech presentation board, again, when patients come into their office, they usually have a list of symptoms we started them off with, and that's kind of their major symptoms. But we're looking at overall health. We're looking again, getting their whole body well. And the idea there is we get body working towards health, the symptoms kind of magically go away all by themselves. Because we're looking at, the symptoms are the red light on the dashboard, and we're taking care of the underlying problems, so the red lights all go off. And this even includes weight. A lot of times people that have weight that won't come off, their bodies need a lot of help. Their livers can't get rid of the toxins that are stored in the fat, and so you just can't get rid of things. But we help with that. And again, our nutritional approach is safe and natural. We're just using food. There's no side effects. We can use it on babies, older people, people even if they're on lots of medications, we can use it on just food. So helping the body, and then we're also helping them with diet too, to getting away from what we call it the hand grenades in their diet that just cause trauma all the time. So you can imagine if you're eating a diet that is causing trauma, you're getting 3 meals a day, every day, you're always going to have inflammation in the body, and you have to get that under control. So I think that goes through everything. Is there any questions from our studio audience? Or is it, I've got you confused enough for one day. So good. Yes.
I hear a lot with saturated fat and cholesterol being in the same sentence. Can you kind of illustrate why that's a little bit different from the other types of fats?
From out there, we have a question on saturated fat and cholesterol. So the interesting thing, another vilified fat is saturated fats. Saturated fats are the kind of fats in meats and things. Saturated fats are actually good for you. They actually have the essential fatty acids in them, usually coming along with meats that have the essential amino acids you have to get in there. And there is cholesterol there, but that is a good form of cholesterol that the body can use nutritionally. Again, only 5% or more, a little, not very much, of our cholesterol in the bloodstream comes from what we eat. Most of it is made by the liver on purpose to help the body to heal or whatever's going on in there. So saturated fat is a good form of fat. And so a lot of your good foods have a lot of saturated fat. So like coconut oil has some other ones too. Extra virgin olive oil is a good source of good fats. Your lard, tallow, butter, good sources of saturated fats. The monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fats, that gets into your corn oils and things like that, and they a lot of times have been processed to become polyunsaturated, and so those processed oils cause all kind of problems. Again, not things the body has ever meant to have there. So that's a whole good long conversation on fats, a lot of information there. But it's just to be aware of whatever is food is meant to be in the body, and whatever has been processed really isn't meant to be there. We're looking at what the body needs to be really healthy, what it needs to rebuild itself with. Any other questions? I think we've probably been going long enough. So I'll let you go for tonight. I mean, again, remember that if you come into their office and use the word heart, we'll get you this free initial nutrition check. You can see what we do here. If you have any other questions later, you can put them in the comment section. We'll answer those later. Give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel. I actually have a YouTube channel too, where this will be transferred onto YouTube. You can watch at a later time as well. So I hope that helps you a little more understanding of blood pressure and cholesterol and what we do in the office and nutrition response testing. Have a great evening, and we just want to help you to be healthy. Thanks.